Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Allie.
And I'm Ellie.
And we are here to talk to you about strategies to help late talkers communicate. First, I want to mention tomorrow is Give STL Day, big, huge fundraising day in the St. Louis area. We would love to have your support. You can go to www.givestlday.org/WSRC. And we actually have campaign pages. So if you want to donate to Ellie's campaign, you would hit -Ellie, ELLIE. If you want to donate to my campaign, you would hit -Allie at the end of the website. And then if you want to donate to Kara's campaign, you would hit -Kara. And that's KARA, and I am ALI. And don't forget, we have $20,000 matching gifts in the month of May. So anything you donate is going to be doubled up to us reaching the $20,000 mark. So we would love any donations that you could send our way. It would be great.
Great. So we're going to get started today talking about what a late talker looks like and what tips and tricks you can do at home for your child. They can, if you suspect that they're a late talker or if you don't have any concerns, these tips and tricks are good for children of all ages.
I forgot to mention the website.
Yes.
We are going to be going off of our website if you want to kind of try to follow along. It's www, did I say too many W's? .srclinic.org/BHSM for Better Hearing and Speech Month. And we are going to have these techniques on there for you. This little colorful thing right here. You can pull up and print and keep with you if you want to go through some of the suggestions we're going through today.
Yeah, so we're just going to kind of walk through some of these tips and tricks and what kind of our experiences are as therapists when working with families. So just kind of to get started, what does a late talker look like? Just briefly, every child develops on their own timeline. Every child looks different. They're going to develop kind of on their own. But what we really want to look for in a child who's about 18 months, we want to see approximately 50 words in their vocabulary. Having those 50 words is going to provide the foundation for these children to start combining two words together. And when a child becomes 2 years old, when they hit 2 years, we are looking for a consistent use or the beginning of consistent use of putting two words together. Your speech therapist might call that the MLU, the mean length of utterance. What that generally means is just how long are their sentences. The age typically correlates to how many words we want to see in their sentences. So a 2-year-old, we would say 2 words together. We would look for approximately 3 words in a sentence for a 3-year-old and so forth. So why don't we get started talking about some of our tips and tricks?
So a lot of these strategies are things that everyone, in terms of their parents or family or teachers, are already doing. They're things that you're doing at home, and you're not even having to think about them. But for kids that are late talkers, sometimes we really do have to think about and consciously use some of these strategies. So you're going to realize that none of these are really rocket science. It's just trying to think about how to use them more often. So the first one is labeling objects and pictures. You want to really make sure you're using a variety of words. So it's our natural inclination to label nouns. When we're reading a book, label the animals, things like that. But kids can't combine words if they only know nouns. So think about using descriptive words or verbs, things like that you can also label while you're reading books or playing games, those sorts of things. And that's just going to help them build their vocabulary.
Along that same line, you also want to talk about describing what you're doing. So this hits on the verbs you were just talking about. If your child has a ball and they're bouncing a ball, you can say, oh, you have the red ball. You're bouncing the ball. Throw me the ball. Things like that. You really want to take the child's lead. You want to take what they're interested in. You're going to maintain their attention much better, and they'll be focused on what you're saying. They'll be interested, and you'll have the opportunity to hopefully maintain an interaction much longer.
The other thing that you want to do that sometimes I feel like is the opposite of what a lot of us think we should do is decrease the amount of questions. So sometimes when kids are asked question after question, they actually feel like they're being tested, and bye, they don't want to stay there and talk to you anymore because it feels like a test. So it's okay to ask kids questions. I think parents sometimes think, okay, I can't ask any more questions. But really think about when you ask a question, pause, make sure you're giving them time to answer the question. Think about, are you asking them questions that they can answer? Because some questions are really hard for kids to answer. So we're not going to ask a 2-year-old a how question. They're not going to be able to describe that. Or a why question. They probably can't answer that. So thinking about, for kids that aren't talking, maybe yes, no questions. Those are really nice because they can answer those non-verbally by just shaking their head, yes or no. And you can also model the answer for them. Or they can answer them verbally, obviously. What questions are more simple, who questions, where questions. A lot of those can be answered by just pointing. So if you're working on answering questions or asking questions, you might just want them to, point to start off to show you that they understand answering the question, and then try to get them to say the verbal word.
Another great way that you can start to increase the complexity in the responses that you're requesting from your child is to give them choices. So if you know that they're answering yes/no questions, that's great. If you want them to start making choices and learning the vocabulary for things, you can give them 2 choices. And I like to think of, you want to start off a little bit smaller and by giving them only 2 choices. If you think you know what they're saying, or you know what they want to do, you know what they want from you, you can give them 2 choices. So I have this little example here. I've got an empty cup and I've got a glass of milk. So if you know your child is thirsty and you know they want milk, say they grab your hand and they take you to the refrigerator and they point to the milk. Some parents tell me the children open up the refrigerator and get the milk out. You want to start incorporating language with those actions because we know they know what they want, but they need to be able to tell you. So what you can do is give them the milk. Say 2 choices. They want the milk. You can throw in an empty glass. So you know that this is the sabotage option. They don't want the empty glass. You can say, do you want the glass of milk or do you want the empty glass? And then they can point to the one that you know that they want and they know that they want.
And if they ask and they say the wrong one that you know they don't want, give them that choice because then they're going to learn, I said that word, that's what I got, right? And so you want to make sure that sometimes kids will just say the last choice and that's not really what they want. And we have to teach them that you have to say what it is that you want to get that.
And they'll learn that their words have meaning. What they say matters because it has a direct relationship with what they get.
The other thing I like about choices, too, is that they can really hear a new vocabulary word versus if you just handed them the milk. They're not learning anything new, but if you ask them, do you want milk or an empty cup? They've just now learned that new concept, empty cup, that they would not have heard if you had just handed them what you already knew they wanted. So giving them choices helps them to hear a new word, even though you know that's not what they're going to pick. The other thing about choices is holding the items up by your face so they can hear and also see how you say the words. And that's just a lot of things. Like if you're labeling an object, hold it up by your face, so they can see how you're saying the word and not just hear it, because that visual component is really important.
So what that looks like, do you want milk? Or like, did you want the pen? Things like that. They can see how you're forming those words and vocabulary with the picture.
For sure. Kind of right down on that, or related to that, is working on eye contact and really trying to get your child to look in your face and be face-to-face with them. And sometimes we have to think about how we need to move to them. So instead of talking to them across the room, we need to move closer to them with an arm's distance away so that their attention is closer to us, and even dropping down, getting in a chair or squatting or on the floor so that you can really be right there with them and make really good eye contact with them so they can see, again, how you're saying the word.
Real quick, I want to thank Mona for joining in and Jim for joining in. Hi, everyone. Just a reminder, if you guys have any questions, if you are working on something at home, or if you have any concerns specifically about what your child's doing, feel free to type it in the comments. We can see at the bottom of the iPad And we are more than happy to respond to what your questions are today. So,
For sure.
we are on respond. So when your child makes an effort to communicate verbally, or even if they're using sign language, any form of communication you want to respond to positively. You want to give them an acknowledgement that you hear them. You know that they're trying to communicate with you. So any form of positive reinforcement. You can even verbally respond saying, oh, wow, I hear you. You are telling me that you want milk. I'm really stuck on milk today. You were telling me that you want a cheese stick. Whatever it is, you can verbally respond. You end up kind of recasting what they're saying so they can hear that you know what they're saying.
Even if they're not saying it right? Because a lot of times our kids are going to say a word totally wrong. They have no clue that they're saying it wrong. They really have no clue. So you just repeat it back to them and tell them, you said milk, even if they said gilk, so that they're really hearing that. Related to that, we also want to talk about being a good model. So even though they're saying the word wrong, maybe they say Melmo for Elmo, you want to say Elmo because that's the name, right? And you want to eventually at some point have them say Elmo. Unless you think it's just really cute, and then you can call it Momo. But we want to try to have them hear the words the right way. We also want to use those simple grammatically correct sentences so that they learn the correct grammar, even though we know they're not going to be using grammar correctly. That way they will really be able to learn that and eventually one day use grammar correctly.
You want to be repeating your words and phrases multiple times. So when you're interacting with your child, and right now just think about your daily routine and what you do with your child. Let's say you're fixing breakfast for your child. If you're making scrambled eggs, if you're making cereal, you want to make sure that you're talking about how you're pouring the milk. You want to repeat the words that you're using multiple times so that they have an optimum amount of exposure to the vocabulary that you're using, be it nouns, verbs, adjectives, words like that. So definitely repeat your words, repeat the words that they're using so that they can hear that vocabulary.
For sure. And, reinforce your child when they are trying to talk, even if they're not saying it right. I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, but just, telling them that you're trying to understand them when they're frustrated and you're not understanding them. Just tell them you're really trying. Show me, take me to it. Can you gesture? Things like that. And just kind of let them know that you really are trying to understand what it is that they're telling you.
This is kind of similar, but really keep the interactions positive. It's so hard to see a child become frustrated because they can't communicate what they want. Keep your interactions positive. Let them know it's okay if they've made a mistake, if they said something differently or if they didn't use enough words grammatically. Keep it positive and help them. A lot of times I have parents come in and they describe their child's communication style as they're not using a lot of words yet, so they take their parent's hand and show them what the object is. Praise them for that. They're showing you what they want. So if they can't say it, you can always encourage them to show you what they want.
Using gestures, signs are awesome. It's just a visual encouragement, and another visual way for them to imitate you. So even though we don't want them to be using signs forever, sometimes having them use that sign will help them to just get that word out in an easier way, because it's much easier to imitate a gesture than it is to imitate saying a word.
And it keeps their motivation to keep trying to have those opportunities to communicate with you. So it keeps those lines of communication open.
For sure. Another really important thing to be doing is working on pretend play. So around 2 is kind of when kids really start to want to do some more pretend play. Thinking about how we can add new vocabulary words and instances that maybe, talking about going to the grocery store. Maybe they only go to the grocery store once every couple of weeks, but you can pretend with your food at home that you're going to the grocery store. And so you're talking about, we're going to pick this out, and pretending in different instances that maybe they wouldn't maybe experience all the time. they can learn new words through pretend play. And I think the one thing I always like to say is that play is really the child's work, and that's how they learn. 2-year-olds are not going to learn words through flashcards. They're going to learn words through the instances and experiences that they're interested in and having fun with, and just that interaction with you and, those play experiences. So that's how kids learn vocabulary.
That leads into our last tip and trick of the day is spending time interacting with your child. We know a lot of families work. Sometimes we have grandparents staying with our children, babysitters. Whatever you do with your child, try and make it a great opportunity for them to hear vocabulary, practice the words that they do have, and don't feel like you always have to be talking. Definitely give them a pause. So if you are talking about what they're doing, pause for a little bit and give them the opportunity to respond back to you. That is how we have conversations. Definitely think about your daily interactions, and maybe there's one great time during the day where you have the opportunity to spend some quality time with your child, be it bedtime, tucking them into bed, bath time, or maybe putting their shoes on, and just focus on that one interaction that you have that day and see how you can make it better.
Right. You don't have to create a whole new time of the day to practice speech and language, your sounds or words. Just use it when you are spending time with your kids, putting them in the car seat, talking about we're putting you in and buckling and, teaching them words just in your everyday experiences. So I think that's one thing that parents think that there's just, there's something I have to do, and just really talking to them during those interactions that you do have together. So we really, really hope that this was helpful for some of you. Feel free to ask questions after this video is over. You can definitely comment on it, and we will be happy to respond to questions on there. If you do think you have any concerns about your child, another thing you can look at is the Hannon website and the Hannon book. It's called It Takes Two to Talk. All of the clinic therapists are Hannon certified. It's a 3-day certification process to help teach children language. And we really, really value the use of parents in teaching their own kids language, and that's kind of what the Hannon program is all about. And so these books are written for parents to read about. If you go to www.hannon.org, you can look at articles, and they have great suggestions about how you can work on language at home with your children, and for different stages of ages and things like that as well.
They also have resources available in Spanish.
Yes, Ellie's our bilingual therapist. And then if you have a child that's ages 2 through 6 and you still have concerns about their speech and language, give us a call and schedule a screening. Our phone number is 314-529-9200. And your children just have to be up to date on their shot records and have a birth certificate in order to come and have a screening done. And we can always let you know, this is normal, or this is something that we should be concerned about, and put them on our wait list. So,
and we'll put all of our contact information again in the video description today. So if you come back and watch this video, we'll have it available for you too.
So thanks everyone for watching, and we will be back next week to talk about book reading. If anyone has any topics that they really, really want to hear about, please comment in the comments as well about any topics that you want us to talk about in the future.
Great.
All right. Thanks so much.
Guys.
Bye.